It was a cold evening, the kind where the wind howled against the windows and the air smelled of approaching rain. I was in my room, scrolling through my phone, when I heard my mother's voice from the living room. "Come in here for a moment." There was something unusual about the way she said it, calm yet firm, almost like a command. My fingers hesitated over my phone screen before I put it down and got up. As I stepped into the living room, I noticed the dim glow of the television. Mom was sitting on the couch, the remote resting in her lap, and the screen was paused on something. A video. She gestured for me to sit beside her. "What's this about?" I asked, feeling a strange tension in the air. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed play. At first, the footage was grainy, almost like an old security recording. The camera was placed in a familiar setting, our living room. The same coffee table, the same couch, the same curtains that swayed slightly from the ceiling fan. Then, a shadow moved in the background. My heartbeat quickened. Someone was in the house. "Who is that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Mom didn't answer. She just watched, her face unreadable. The figure stepped forward, revealing the lower half of a man's body. He was wearing dark trousers and polished shoes, but his face was still obscured. He seemed to be pacing near the staircase, as if waiting for something. Then, suddenly, he turned toward the camera. My stomach clenched. His face was blurred, but something about him seemed eerily familiar. Then he spoke. His voice was distorted, but the words sent a shiver down my spine. "He's coming. He knows everything." The screen went black. I turned to Mom, my pulse racing. "What does that mean?" She exhaled, gripping the remote so tightly her knuckles turned white. "It means we're running out of time." Before I could process her words, the sound of a key turning in the lock echoed through the house. Dad was home. Mom shot up from the couch and switched off the TV in an instant. The room plunged into silence. "Mom, why are we watching this? Dad's back soon." She turned to me, her expression unreadable. Then, in a low voice, she whispered, "Because that man in the video isn't your father." I froze. My mind struggled to process what she had just said. "What do you mean?" "Of course, it's Dad." She shook her head. "No. Your father was supposed to come home at 10 p.m., right?" I checked my phone. It was 9:30 p.m. A chill ran down my spine. The front door creaked open. Heavy footsteps entered the house. I turned toward the hallway. There stood my father, or, at least, someone who looked exactly like him. His coat was drenched from the rain outside, and he was holding his briefcase. He looked at us with his usual tired expression. "Why do you both look so tense?" he asked. Mom forced a smile. "Just watching a movie." He nodded slowly and stepped further into the room. But something was off. His movements felt different, slightly unnatural, like he was forcing himself to mimic my father's usual gestures. And then I saw it. His shoes. In the video, the man's shoes were polished black, but Dad's shoes were brown. I swallowed hard. Whoever had just entered our home wasn't my father. Mom subtly reached for her phone, but the man, Dad, whoever he was, spoke up. "Where's my dinner?" His voice was the same, yet something about it felt hollow, like an imitation. Mom gave me a quick glance, a silent signal. "Play along." "It's in the kitchen," she said quickly. "Let me get it for you." He nodded and walked toward the dining area. The moment he disappeared from view, Mom grabbed my hand. "We need to get out," she whispered. "But how?" "He'll notice." She took a deep breath. "I have a plan, but you need to trust me." Just as we stood up, we heard his voice again. "Where is my dinner?" But this time, it came from upstairs. We both froze. The man, who had just walked into the kitchen, was now speaking from above. That was impossible. Mom's face turned pale. A deep, sinking feeling settled in my stomach as I turned toward the hallway again. The man in the kitchen was still there. And now, another identical voice was calling from the second floor. Then I realized there wasn't just one. There were two. And neither of them was my father. Mom didn't wait. She grabbed my wrist and bolted toward the back door. Behind us, the sound of footsteps. Many footsteps began moving in different directions. Just as we reached the door, a deep voice echoed from the darkness. You should have never watched the video. The last thing I remember before we ran into the night was the sight of both men stepping into the living room, staring at us with identical, hollow smiles.